Okay, Ben. I have some questions for you.
Yeah.
Hold on, I have questions.
Oh my god. I think I was gonna do the same thing to you.
Were you?
Before we start the podcast, this is really important. I need to make sure I know who you really are.
This is a question I have for you, okay?
Okay.
It's your birthday.
Yeah.
Someone gives you a calfskin wallet.
I refuse.
Okay, you've got a little boy. He shows you his butterfly collection plus the killing jar.
I kill him. I turn him into the.
Whoa!
I turn him into the authorities.
There's not a right answer here.
Oh.
It's all about emotional response.
All right.
You're watching
Oysters.
television. Suddenly you realize there's a wasp crawling on your arm.
I turn him into the authorities.
Wasp? You're in a desert walking along in the sand when all of a
Why would I
sudden
be
you
in a
look
desert?
down.
What desert? What's the name of the desert?
Doesn't, it's just a hypothetical.
Which
And
desert would
you
I be
see-
in? Why would I be there?
Just imagine. You
Okay.
see a tortoise. It's crawling towards you. You reach down, you flip the tortoise over. It's on its back. The tortoise lays on its back, its belly baking in the hot sun, beating its legs, trying to turn itself over, but it can't. Not without your help. But you're not helping. Why is that?
When I was a child, my mother.
He's a replicant!
Ah! Wait, Marshall! Wait, I have some questions for you.
Okay.
In one word, describe how you feel about your dad. One word only. One word only. That's not words, those are sound effects.
Dang it.
Quick, drink this.
Tall.
How does it make, what's it remind you of?
Lemon lime?
How does it make you feel in one word response?
10.
Tell me if you love me or not.
Yeah, I love you, Ben.
Kiss me.
No!
He's a replicant!
Oh, no.
There's no way. Everybody, Marshall and I are both not human. This whole time, you've thought I was a human, but I'm not. At least that's what you've been picking up on, and maybe the director will make you believe that even more than us ourselves.
But what is it to be truly human, Ben?
Let's talk about that on Good Mythical Morning.
Bow, 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 bow,
Yeah.
bow, bow,
Yeah.
bow,
Yeah.
bow.
Yep. Well, hey everybody, welcome to the Cinema Lounge, where Marshall and I are definitely humans.
Totally humans, don't worry about it. I've got my human guy and I have memories that belong to me.
Yeah.
No one else has them.
If people haven't seen Blade Runner, they're confused at this point.
Well, then why are they listening to this?
It's a great point. Well, no, isn't that part of the idea? Is there's maybe someone out there who hasn't seen this movie, and we're trying to convince them to see it.
It could be. I was talking to Eric today, and Eric has seen Blade Runner 2049. He has not seen the original Blade Runner.
Oh. I wonder how many people that's true for. Is there
Probably
more people?
most.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting one to have a legacy sequel for because it wasn't that popular. Like, it is a huge touchstone in science fiction film, but
Yeah.
it wasn't like a big success or anything at the time in
Right.
1982. So it's not really a household name the same way that Star Trek or Star Wars are, because it is much more like pure science fiction, like somewhere between Star Trek and Star Wars, but leaning into the Star Trek side, which is just not as commercially viable a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
That's interesting. I feel like within nerd culture, there's a lot. I mean, many people have seen Blade Runner. There's definitely a cult following.
Oh, absolutely.
I think my first exposure to what Blade Runner was watching Mythbusters growing up, and
Adam's obsessed with the bad Blade Runner.
Yeah, I think there's a bit in the show where they have like a bunch of time to burn, so then they all go and watch like the director's cut of Blade Runner as like the pause and we'll go over here, and they like put it in like the DVD player or something and watch
That's
it.
hilarious.
Yeah, but anyway, so it's like when I was a kid seeing that, I was like, what's Blade Runner? My dad said, oh, it's some dumb movie that is confusing. And so I never watched it growing up. He never showed it to me.
I found it confusing the first time I watched it, but rewatching it this time, it felt a lot better.
Did you also do some reading in between those two watchings?
What do you mean? About the movie?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I don't think so. I would like to read the book. But first, Ben,
Yes.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Where's your dang timer?
What? Oh, it's time for Tight News.
It's time for tight news, and I'm ready for it. I've got some good tight news, and it's gonna be great. It's gonna be the best one we've ever done.
Tightest of all the news, and then we'll talk about Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Okay,
We're
here we
actually
go.
gonna talk about Blade Runner during tight news.
You gotta be kidding me.
It's not a joke. It's
Is it
serious
just
business.
because it's Indiana Jones season and this is a Harrison Ford movie?
No.
Let's see. Here we go. 10 minutes starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, Ben, it's officially Barbenheimer month. How do you feel?
Barbenheimer? Hardly know her.
Oh boy. Ben? Welcome to Barbenheimer month.
Thank you.
Do you
What
know
does that
how-
mean?
It means that, as we know,
Yeah.
as big film fans,
Cinephiles, if you will.
exactly, we are attracted to
Yeah.
films.
Yes, correct. We do horrible, horrible things to the cinema.
Yes, we really just butcher those things
Yep.
every week on our show.
Yep.
As you know, Greta Gerwig's Barbie and Chris McQuarrie's not Mission Impossible, sorry. How embarrassing. Let me start over.
Okay.
Greta Gerwig's Barbie and Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer are opening on the same day this month. It's a big, exciting thing, and everybody's joking they're going to go and do a double feature.
Which
I'm not joking.
Tom Cruise, do you see this quote? Tom Cruise said, no joke, like, everyone go do it, support the theaters.
Yeah.
Everybody go double feature this thing.
Yes, so that's partially what we're getting into here is that Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie posted some pictures online that went viral of them in front of the posters with their tickets to, what was it? Indy, Oppenheimer, and Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. They went and saw all of them.
There's no way.
There is that.
Really?
one. Yes.
Wow.
And then McHugh and Tom Cruise went and did the same thing, but I think they only posted a picture with Barbie.
Okay.
And then the internet was just, all of Twitter was just thinking like, how amazing is the idea that this morning the press secretaries for Chris Nolan and Cillian Murphy are calling them and saying, please go and see the Barbie movie so we can
You
post
be a
pictures
part of this.
And it's just like the idea of Cillian Murphy's a very nice, soft-spoken man, but Christopher Nolan, this grumpy auteur, just the idea of forcing him to go and see Barbie is hilarious to me.
Very fun. Huh.
I think that's great.
So we're going to do it? Are we going to get the loungers, the
I want
crepes to
to.
do it? Okay, cool.
I want to. I want to go and see. We got to start with Barbie, I think, and then move into Oppenheimer.
Okay.
What do you think?
I don't know. Do we? Yeah, I think I might be like burned out after watching Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
I think I might need to ease into it with something else.
I saw, speaking of Blade Runner 2049, I saw a great meme that was, it said, talking about this double feature thing, me going into, Christopher Nolan had said that, what was it? It was someone had said that people leaving test screenings for Oppenheimer were leaving like devastated and
God.
just torn apart mentally and everything.
Really?
And the caption was me going into Barbie after seeing Oppenheimer, and it was Ryan Gosling looking up at the Joy hologram in this movie.
That's
for 2049.
so good.
And it's so funny.
Wow.
Oh,
That's
boy.
something else.
It's great. I'll put the meme right there.
So what you're saying is we probably should see, or are we gonna want to like bleach our eyes after Oppenheimer? Like, do we need something lighthearted?
The cunning warrior attacks neither body nor mind.
Tell me how!
The heart, Osborn. First, we attack his heart.
Afterwards, is it like watching an episode of Friends after watching a scary movie situation?
I don't know. I'll put a poll on this episode. If you're on Spotify, you can answer the poll. Should we do Barbie Oppenheimer? Do we do Barbenheimer, or do we do Bobby?
Oppenabby.
That's my new catchphrase.
You've got 6 minutes.
All right, guys,
Very good.
Oppenabby. Greg Fraser returning as director of photography for the Batman 2. This is the guy who was the cinematographer for the first one and for Dune. Lots of other really good stuff. That's amazing.
That's cool. Yeah, wow. Okay, so it's like, they are like officially greenlighting Batman 2?
Oh, that's been a thing for a long time.
Oh, I thought it was like up in the air after the DC takeover of James Gunn.
No, so that's all, like, there's the main universe, and that's the connected world, but then they have
Oh.
DC Elseworlds,
Oh.
which is a thing in the comics. It's like these are the multiverse stories, but then in this version, it's essentially the multiverse, not the multiverse. The DC Elseworlds is things that do not fit inside this mainline universe.
Got it.
So that's where you would have something like a Logan type movie in the X-Men world. Is not typically really in that world, but it's kind of a separate thing. Or like a better example would be the Batman or Joker.
Got it.
Are both DC Elseworlds classified.
They should just do that for all of the movies, but whatever.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I think if they look at things with the attitude of we want this to be able to stand on its own, that's great.
Yeah.
I still want to have that connected universe, but I think it is important that we don't look at this as this has to connect to this, which connects to this, which connects to this, which is like what we were talking about on the Flash episode.
Yeah.
It was just too dependent on being interdependent, and that causes problems.
Speaking of which, the Blade Runner extended universe. Is that going to be the next news? I was just guessing.
Sort of.
Oh, okay,
So, Dune Part 2 trailer came out.
Oh, I haven't watched it yet. No spoilers.
Looks really good.
You can spoil
and
it.
it also
I read
has
the book.
come out that it is probably a Part 3. Because they've talked about doing Dune Messiah as well. So which would be like another book, because that one like finishes Paul's story, apparently. How much time do I have?
5, 4, 34, 4, 422, 420.
Dang, okay, cool. So I got time.
What is it?
But it looks really good. Again, also being shot by Greg Fraser, I believe. It created a whole debate about how good Zendaya is or isn't in the Discord.
From the trailer?
Yes, because I am continually like, I don't get the hype.
People need to get up. Oh, don't get the hype about Zendaya.
No, I don't think like
You don't have to hype. You just have to. You just,
But people like love her and talk about her like she's this generational talent.
Yeah.
And I have not seen that ever from her.
do you think they talk about her like a generational talent, or they're just
Yes.
like, wow, what a figure? I feel like she's just more of an
I don't
icon.
get that either.
I think she's just more of an icon. Have you seen her at the Met Gala?
Yeah, I'd be like, whatever. I don't get it.
Okay.
Like even in that way, I don't get it. But people do talk about her like she's this incredible writer and actress and director, and like I don't think has she directed something?
I think
don't
that's just
know.
from normal people, though. There's nobody like.
It doesn't matter if it's from normal people because that's what the perception is. If the general audience believes something, that's what the perception is, and that's what reality to some degree becomes.
Interesting.
I don't know.
I get your take. I understand what you're saying. I just like. It's just the people, Marshall. Just let
people are stupid.
Let the people have their fun.
the people are fools.
Is that from something?
I don't know. I was
it-
trying to think of. I know that there's definitely something that's like.
Well, just let people like Zendaya. Have you seen Euphoria?
I watched a couple episodes.
I haven't. So.
Just because I was like, I was pretty sure I would not like it,
Yeah.
but people were obsessed with it, so I was like, okay, maybe this is something.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't think it's very good.
Okay.
And also now this Sam Levinson's new show, The Idol, is just getting destroyed.
Don't know anything about that.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
like starring The Weeknd and
Ugh.
Lily Rose Depp, and apparently it is basically like people are realizing it is basically just like Selena Gomez. Like this Lily Rose Depp character is just an awful version of Selena Gomez,
Oh.
which is like the most awful thing that an ex could possibly do to you. Is just make this show that he stars in,
Yeah.
and then make it a super fictionalized, awful version of you. And
Yeah, I
like
guess so.
glorify all of these things that you've talked about being a really traumatic part of your life.
Yeah. Whoa. Woof.
I'm not watching this show, but I'm delighted by the memes that come from it every single week because of how unhinged and insane it is.
Sweet.
It's
I'm
great.
glad I'm not on social media. Hey.
Me too. For the most part, I hop on to make this show. And then
Yeah. You're welcome. Loungers.
last thing, how much time do I have?
To 1:30. Oh gosh.
Oh
Go.
my gosh.
Go.
Speaking of Dune and Greg Fraser and all kinds of things, there's a Blade Runner video game that has just been announced.
What a what?
Yes, it is called Blade Runner 2033.
Whoa. And in between.
Yeah, it takes place between the first one and this new one. It takes place after the events of the Blackout and asks, what does a Blade Runner do when there are no replicants left to hunt?
Oh gosh.
So they mention it various times.
They
in the
take
movie.
up hobbies.
Yes.
Oh God.
This is knitting simulator.
F, dude. Puzzles!
It's hilarious. But I mean,
okay.
it could be puzzles, I don't know. It's being developed by Annapurna Interactive, who did Stray, 12 Minutes, The Pathless Journey,
okay.
The Outer Wilds, What Remains of Edith Finch. A lot of very, like, filmy, contemplative, slow games.
Yeah.
And some are better than others. Like Journey is one of my favorite games of all time. Journey is the game that made me realize that video games could be art and not just like shooting and throwing footballs. The Outer Wilds is one of the most creative games I've ever played.
30 seconds.
And I'm excited about this. If you don't know what the blackout is, they talk about it a lot in the movie. The blackout is a thing that happened in 2022, last year, where the replicant freedom movement caused a 10-day power outage in Los Angeles. And during the blackout, they destroyed the database. Well, I guess the blackout is what did this, but it destroyed the replicant database and it prevented Blade Runners from hunting down and retiring replicants. So that's what they talk about briefly in the movie of like, oh, pre-blackout, hard to find those records because it was all erased. So the idea here of what does a Blade Runner do when there are no replicants left to hunt, they're still there. The thing is, we don't have any record of them. We don't know, like,
do you go rogue?
Is this person a replicant? I don't know anymore.
Whoa.
So that's cool.
Nice. Good tight news, Marshall.
That's tight news.
That's been tight news. Yeah, that was a good one. They're only gonna go downhill from there, so let's not try. Okay. Oh, well, that was pretty okay. Okay, well, okay, gotta keep going. Okay, that was it. Then we're done. We're done now, Marshall. Ow! So.
You gotta high five me one more time.
Okay.
All right. We are talking about Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049.
Indeed.
The way that we've done multiple movie episodes in the past is we've kind of tried to do one at a time, but then we've also just we always end up talking about both of them.
Right.
So I'm just gonna try to go through all the stats right now for both of them.
Sweet, that sounds great.
So for Blade Runner 1982, it was written by Hampton Fancher. Yep, I thought I said that wrong, but I'm right. Hampton Fancher, David Webb Peoples, and the original novel that this is based on, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, is written by Philip K. Dick, who also wrote The Man in the High Castle and a lot of other stuff that's been adapted into science fiction film.
He died the year the movie came out. How fun is that?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, I think maybe before it
The first movie.
But yeah, before later,
Yeah. The score for the original is done by Vangelis, probably most well-known outside of this for Chariots of Fire. And Vangelis is crazy. It keeps going forever.
Mr. Bean. Anyway.
Yeah, it's very good. Cinematography was Jordan Cronenworth. Performances, Harrison Ford, Rutger Hauer, Sean Young, Edward James Olmos, Daryl Hannah. Directed by Ridley Scott.
Ridley.
The new one, written again by Hampton Fancher. Michael Green, who did Logan, as well as the 2036 and 2048 prequel shorts for this movie, for 2049. The score was done by Hans Zimmer, and amazingly, the guy who last week I said I'd never heard of, Benjamin Wallfish, who did the score for The Flash.
Whoa!
I had no idea.
Never heard of this guy.
Yeah,
What's he even done?
I looked him up on IMDb last week, and I was like, he hasn't done anything.
Yeah.
I guess he did Blade Runner 2049.
Is he just one of those Hans Zimmer understudies that like does a lot of the work with Hans Zimmer, but then Hans Zimmer gets all the credit? Maybe. I know that Hans Zimmer's really good, but I think from what I know, there's also like 4 other people that write and work with him. That,
Probably.
Like, do
I mean,
a lot
he's
of
very
things.
collaborative. He's very public about that too.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of videos of like he just gets all the best musicians that he can find and experiments, and they're all working together and figuring it out.
Brilliant. But he's like, the creative director, creative mind.
That's
how freaking work.
He's like
works.
the director of a
That's
movie.
how things do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how things do.
That's how it's working do.
Blade Runner 2049 cinematography is the great Roger Deakins, who's done any number of things, like Skyfall, the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. If you can think of a movie that is extremely visually gorgeous and just amazing looking, he was probably Roger Deakins. He is like the guy in a lot like for really like not like stylized, but like a heightened
Air Bud.
I would say Air Bud, exactly. Space Jam. Performances: Ryan Gosling, Ana de Armas, Robin Wright, Harrison Ford again. Jared Leto, and once again, Edward James Olmos as well. I don't have the woman who played Love in here. I can't remember what her name was.
Yeah, I don't know.
I need to
Sorry,
find that.
no computer for me.
Sorry. And directed by Denis Villeneuve, who also did Dune, and is doing Dune Part 2, and also did Arrival, and Prisoners, and
Airbud.
Enemy, and what?
Airbud.
Basically, this guy's exclusively made really good movies that, until Dune, made very little money. So I was extremely happy that Dune made money, because let this man make whatever he wants. He's incredible.
Did 2049 had major success? Did it not make money?
It was
What?
not very popular.
Didn't it like what? I thought they were. I think like critically though, wasn't it?
Critically, very well loved.
That's what I thought.
Critically, yes. Box office, no.
Oh.
Because, I mean, this is a sequel that came, gosh, computer, what is 2017 minus 1982?
2017 minus 1,982 is 35.
Oh my gosh.
35 years
Marshall,
later.
what's your weird wife doing in here?
Sorry, Anna de Armas.
A hologram, which you're
Oh.
kissing and weird things.
That would be weird.
That would be strange, honestly. That's what I took away from this. Imagine if your Alexa could just be your wife.
Well, that's the movie Her.
Yeah.
We can suggest
Oh.
that one later.
Oh gosh, I would love to see that. No joke. I would love to watch
Have you not
it.
seen Her?
I've not seen
Neither
it.
have I,
no.
and I don't know that I want to.
No. Well, I think I'd do with you though. I think I would watch it with you. I would watch it with you. Or
But
Smart House.
Specifically, let's watch Smart House.
All right.
What was I talking about?
I don't know. You're doing math with your hot.
Yeah, so
Hot wife.
we were talking about the movie came 35 years later.
Yeah.
So Blade Runner originally not super well loved or well seen. It didn't make a lot of money. It was much more a cult hit. Making a sequel to that 35 years later is not a recipe for success, and I'm kind of amazed that this movie exists.
Yeah.
Like, who greenlit this? And I want to dive into the history of that. I haven't, but I want to
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Because it's just wild to me that we've made a sequel to a movie like that. And it is not just good, I think it's better than the original in a lot of ways. Like, it surpasses it. And that's a big statement, because the original one is also very good in its own right. Like, both of these movies are insanely good, and I think the first one is crazy influential, and now the second one has been kind of the same way within the sci-fi genre.
Wow.
So Ben,
Yeah, that's cool.
I've got a
But
list.
interesting that you're saying that it's interesting that it made it. 2017. Like,
made it at
who
all.
was thinking like, let's make a
Who's
sequel to
asking,
this?
other
Yeah.
than like very intense nerds,
Yeah.
who was asking for a Blade Runner sequel?
Right. Also, I mean, I guess maybe with what I've kind of learned about the backstory world, it makes sense of like, let's flesh this out a little bit more. But interesting that, man, they did such a good job balancing relaunch. It was almost like a relaunch of the title, or like of the what's the right word for that?
Franchise?
Yeah, sure. Like, yeah.
It was creating it as a franchise.
Right. So it's like, to do that and to not rely on the first one too much, to have like kind of an original story,
Yeah.
but also just a fantastic sequel that many years afterwards. Man, that's just impressive that
It's
they were able to
crazy.
pull that off. That it just like, actually fit. Like, I think like a worse example would be Indiana Jones and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Like, it's been
Yeah.
years and years. It's been since the 1980s that we made one of these things. We're rebooting it, and it's bad.
It's just
it's
not
like,
good.
why did we do this?
It doesn't feel like a natural extension,
Right.
the way that this does.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
feels like we are 30 years later.
Yeah.
The movie's 30 years later. The real life was 35, I guess. But it's 30 years later, and it feels like this world has advanced 30 years. It's not wildly further technologically advanced. It is already futuristic world, and things are not going to get that much more futuristic. Like, if you look at the curve of technology in the real world, it's exponential. You get microchips and stuff, and suddenly you're going, whoa! And now everything is like, kind of like this. Think about the iPhone.
Yeah.
It's the first one is a big deal, and now after a while we just plateaued, and that's just kind of how technology works, which is why I love that this doesn't just shoot even further into the future somehow and get like nanotech and super like spacey and utopia-ish and stuff. Like, it keeps that like analog futurism look that the original has, because like to change that would be defying it unless there was a very specific reason.
Right.
Where like the prequels in Star Wars to the original trilogy, you're going backwards because of the story reason of the Empire stopping advancement and keeping everything the same and stuff like that. You don't have that here. But it works. I just love, I mean, we're talking about the production design. The original won the Oscar for Best Art Direction, and this new one was nominated for production design, not win, also nominated for sound mixing and sound editing, won for cinematography and visual effects. It's good stuff, Ben.
Really good stuff. Should we do the script scores, cinematography for both?
How
How do we do that? How do we do that for 2 movies, Marshall?
I don't know.
What's the best way to do
It always
this?
feels a little clumsy whenever we do it.
How about we just talk? Like a normal, wherever the flow of the convo takes us. But we need something to end on. What can be our ending thing?
Well, I've got general trivia. I do have some discussion questions
Okay.
that I wrote out.
Oh, should we just do those?
Sure.
Hell yeah.
If we are going to let's briefly go through script score, cinematography, and stuff like that. Like, I think these are both very well written.
Yeah.
Like, the original just feels so specific to me. And the second one, 2049, doesn't feel like it has as unique of a voice to me. And I feel like that's just because it is following in the footsteps of the original.
Yeah.
The original is a very singular voice. It feels very noir in the
Yes.
way that it's written. Even that, like, there's so many lines in that are just like, I hadn't watched it for so long, but the moment the movie started and they were doing the Voight comp test at the beginning,
Yeah.
and like, you even started reciting it. You've only seen it the one time.
Right.
And
Well, I
you've seen
also
it-
I also was planning on doing that to you, so that's very funny that we both had the same idea of how we were going to start the show.
Yeah, but those lines are so
Yeah.
iconic. And even when she comes in, it's like, do you like our owl?
Yeah.
Like, yes, is it real? Of course not. Or, no, that's with the snakes, she says, of course not. But like,
Same thing. Yeah.
so much of that script has become so iconic. Even like, I mean, Rutger Hauer famously improvised the line at the end when he saves Deckard and is about to die. And he talks about I've seen things that you people wouldn't believe, like whatever, over the crest of Orion and stuff like that. And all these memories will be lost like tears in rain.
Yeah.
And it's like so profound. And it just is like so well done. That one I feel like has a much more artsy, poetic feel to it. Like, it's much more noir, poetic
it's a
feel.
slow burn too. It's a slow pace, and I think that kind of adds to that too. Like, we've got long shots of Harrison Ford or Deckard walking through. Deckard. Is there a D at the end?
Deckard.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, like, just long shots of him walking through the rain in the city, or prowling around looking for clues. Like, it feels like the slow, methodical hunt down of
It does.
of
whatever your quarry is
whatever,
of your target.
right.
And I mean, part of the reason for that is kind of accidental because there are various cuts of this movie. The original.
I was gonna go ahead.
Were you gonna look it up?
Well, I think I know what you're gonna say. You finish it.
Yeah, so the original version had, much to the chagrin of Harrison Ford and Rutger Hauer, these long narrated sequences that are just like completely lifeless and not good. Harrison hated it, and would go to Ridley and be like, why are we not just like showing him do these things and showing him, like, if he's gonna go and do this thing, let's show him go do this thing instead of saying, well, I thought this and I thought that. Like, just portray that. And that was in the theatrical cut. And even the ending of the theatrical cut is totally different. We'll get to that later.
I had pulled up on my phone here a montage on YouTube of all of the bad voiceovers from Harrison Ford that I was going to play for you, but you've already heard them. So never mind. Yeah, that's very funny.
Yeah, they took that out in the director's cut.
Right. So I think, thanks for bringing that up, because I think that's important to talk about for the first Blade Runner. And I'm not sure how it makes me feel. It's led to very interesting debate amongst the community because it has changed in each cut. There's like the theatrical version, and then as Ridley Scott had more influence over the story, the director's cut, obviously, it seems as though he shaped some of the meaning and shaped some of what the audience is supposed to take away from this, which is interesting. There's a big debate over whether or not Deckard is a I keep wanting to say symbiote, but replicant. Thank you. Whether or not he's a replicant.
Yeah.
The theatrical cut, it's pretty up in the air. You can't really tell. I mean, if anything, it seems a lot more like he is a human in the theatrical cut.
Yeah.
And Harrison
the theatrical
Ford
cut doesn't have the unicorn sequence in it really at all. Either.
There's no dream either. There is no
Exactly.
dream. Yeah. Harrison Ford and Ridley Scott had debates about this issue. Harrison Ford saying, if we don't make him human, our main character, there needs to be an audience connection, a human connection between the viewer and Deckard, and if it cheapens it if you turn him into a robot. So there's this debate between them. The producers even thought it should be Deckard as human, and then as Ridley Scott had a little bit more control over things, throw in some things that make it pretty hard to argue against him not being a robot. So it's like, anyway, what do you think about how multiple cuts of the movie can really change the movie and change the audience's perception on the entire story changes, the storytelling changes.
It really does. It's an interesting debate because that was one of the big questions going into 2049 is how are they going to address that? Like the big thing was like, we're finally going to find out.
Yeah, are we retconning something?
And they kind of just skirt around it.
Which I think is kind of cool.
I really like that because ultimately, especially with 2049 and the way it expands the world and the way that it digs deeper into the issues of like, what's my questions here of like, what makes us real and how do memories influence characters and their understanding of the world and do replicants possess free will? Like what's the significance of natural life in that world? Like all of these different things. Ultimately, it doesn't matter if he's a replicant or not.
Yes.
Because the whole question is, what is that line?
Yeah.
And does it matter what that line is?
Right.
Like that's the whole thing about these movies, and especially about 2049. Like that's what's happening in the first one, but it's more subtle and it's much less touched on. Whereas in this one, it is very much kind of the central question that Kay is going through the entire story.
It's also, he's a replicant pretty obviously the entire time.
Yes.
They don't come out and say like, you replicant, but like multiple characters are like, they call him like like graffitied on his door, he's a skin job and all that kind of stuff.
Well, in that first scene with Dave Bautista, they very subtly tell you at first when he stabs him and then he has no reaction. Yeah. And then before he shoots him, he says, how does it feel hunting your own kind?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And then you kind of get that impression of like, oh, so that's why this small man can beat Dave Bautista in a physical fight.
I think is actually important to the storytelling to address that right from the beginning.
Yes,
in terms of that debate. Yeah. And it gets much more complex from there. But anyway, I think what you're saying is really important, that it doesn't really matter. In fact, I guess that's kind of the takeaway is, what does any of it matter? What, like, the fact that I'm experiencing life, if I'm a robot, if I'm a replicant right now, and I don't know I'm a replicant, like, does it? Yeah,
like Rachel didn't know.
Yeah, like, it doesn't change anything. I'm gonna still keep living my life.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, whatever. And I think actually it doesn't play as well if Harrison Ford plays it like he's a replicant the entire time. Mm-hmm. Like, he plays it like he's a human, because that's what he thought the character should have been. And I think that results in actually a lot more of that cognitive dissonance of like,
exactly,
what's a human? He acted like a human the entire time.
And I think you get into that with Kay as well. Mm-hmm. Like, one of the things that I've written here, like I wrote, at what point do we consider replicants or artificial intelligence real life? And in a more simple way to ask that question is just, what makes us real? And we can talk about the physical aspects of replicants are stronger than humans. They can still be hurt though. They bleed, they can be killed, they experience emotion. But they're still machines, they're different than we are. Mm-hmm. But they are organic machines. Tyrell refers to them as organic, like something organic systems. I don't remember exactly what it is.
And in fact, they have a baby.
Yes, so that wasn't the case in the original, but then you have the ability to reproduce, which then potentially makes replicants self-sufficient. They don't require a creator for their continued existence. Is that what makes them real? What makes them human?
Race? Yeah.
But then I think what you dive into further in the movie, because you can completely divorce yourself from all of that, and I would say you watch the original, you look at Roy and his reaction when he finds out that it's just the two of them, it's just him and Pris left.
Yeah.
He's like genuinely
The heart, Osborn. First, we attack his heart.
broken by that. Like it's the acting, the performance by Rutger Hauer in that first movie, I think is the best one in the movie. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
But then he doesn't want revenge, he just wants to be understood, which is why I think he saves Deckard at the end and tells him all of this.
Yes. What a good bad guy performance. It's so much better than Jared Leto.
Well, Jared Leto was supposed to be David Bowie,
What?
and then David Bowie died.
Oh.
Right?
Can you imagine? There's so many moments in the first one where I was like, David Bowie. David Bowie. It's like there's so many David Bowies walking around on
Everybody's
the screen.
David Bowie.
But wow, really? I did not know that. That would have been so much better than Jared Leto.
Like Jared Leto works because he's a creep in real life. The same way that we can look back on Kevin Spacey performances and be like, oh, that's why he was good at being a creep and a bad guy.
Right.
But if we're talking about what makes us real, it's much more these metaphysical things.
Yes.
Because, you get to the point where you find out that they had a baby, they had this organic child somehow. We don't know how that, it's Tyrell's final miracle or something is what he says.
Yeah, Dave Bautista says, have you ever experienced a miracle or something?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Kay's mannerisms seem to change when he believes that he is the one who was born.
Yeah.
As though,
Wow.
believing that he is real versus a replicant, even though he's still a replicant either way, was putting some kind of self-imposed boundary on him.
Yes.
So what he was told he was and how he was told those kinds of people acted is how he acted.
Wow.
So belief, what it really is saying is that belief creates who you are.
Yeah.
So much more than any physical thing, any physical attribute.
Yeah, the narrative shifted. His own narrative shifted of who he is.
Yeah. When he goes and sees Deckard, he's being so human. The way that we would describe human. He's being much more emotional, he's being much more casual, where up to that point he was so much more robotic. Or even around other humans, he's not human, around humans, he would be much more robotic, as opposed to at home with Joy, he was much more human, much more emotional and outwardly emotional and everything. And I think that's really interesting.
Also, did you ever catch the joy and love emotions, the name of the characters?
Interesting.
Isn't that kind of fun? He ends up killing love.
Oh.
Yeah, isn't that kind of fun?
What does that mean?
Just some symbolism. I mean, like take it wherever you want, or don't take it wherever you want. But yeah, but his joy wasn't actually personal. It was actually everybody has the same joy. It was all that. Yeah. Isn't that kind of some weird stuff?
Interesting.
Yeah. Do emotions make you human? Do they?
I never thought about that.
Kind of fun.
That is really interesting.
Or is it an action like saving Deckard from falling to his death? Like a very human, maybe the most human action of the entire movie.
Yeah.
Is
the first one.
Yeah, the first one. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, jumping back. Yeah, to save him from falling to his death. And maybe it's two things that are not human. A non-human saving a non-human, having the most human moment of all. Yeah.
Well, it seems like the only person that values life in that first movie and demonstrates it actively is Roy.
Yeah.
Because he is actively trying to save the lives of the people around him, of his friends, of his colleagues. He's trying to keep them alive because he knows they have this expiration date.
Right.
And then he saves Deckard at the end.
All of them keep saying, like, have you ever experienced fear? Or how's it feel to be living in fear, living hunted?
Leon says the same thing as Roy there, but in a very different way. He's about to kill it. They gouge the eyes out too. What does that mean? Yeah.
Ooh.
Because there's this big focus. That's the opening shot of both movies. Is an eye, close up, and then their serial number is on their eyes.
That is so good.
Yeah.
Which I didn't get when they first went to the guy who was like manufacturing eyeballs or whatever was going on there. He was like he was experimenting.
Is that what James Hong was doing?
Yes. Yeah.
Ah!
Yes.
There's so many layers. Like, I wrote down all these things and I was reading stuff and everything, but there's so many more layers even further than I realized.
Oh yeah, where are we at?
Time to press the button.
Ah!
We're gonna reset. There's so many layers.
How many? Wait, how much time do we
It's
have
like a couple minutes. There's so many layers.
Just layers of the ball, eyeballs.
Hey, eyeball.
Mountain Dew, baby. Wow, this carpet is surprisingly non-absorbent.
How do you feel?
I'm so sorry, dude. I feel like a freaking middle schooler at a slumber party, cleaning up Mountain Dew on the floor.
Oh boy. You like
know,
spread it out. Look at
yeah, you'll taste the mountains.
the cinematography. If we want to get into the more technical aspects again,
yeah.
the cinematography in both of these is very good. But
Yeah.
just you look at 2049, it's just amazing. It's just visually gorgeous.
Yeah. I think both of them are that way. The first
Yeah.
one is, the lighting in the first one is nuts. And I don't know how many movies at the time had done that. I don't think really any. It was
What?
pretty, like, just like the backlighting on things and the freaking, like,
Yeah.
just everything is so good. Ah, man.
It is very like, and that one is much more in the vein of a noir than 2049 is.
Yeah.
And even the cinematography is very much that way, and the way that it is lit that way. Like if you compare that to the Maltese Falcon, you're gonna see weirdly similar shot composition, not composition, but like lighting and stuff like that a lot of the time. And that's so. It's interesting to take that very old style and juxtapose that with this analog futuristic kind of look.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it creates a really interesting look.
Huh.
They're both very cool looking.
Also, just, it was so influential to so many things to this day, like within the sci-fi genre, within just filmmaking.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to think of something like recent that I think like Andor has a lot to credit to it in some ways, like in some of the stylistic choices of both the world and also the feel of it. Like even just like thinking of Star Wars jumping to rainy neon planets, like that didn't really exist before this movie.
It didn't. Like this kind of, I don't know when the word cyberpunk first kind of came about, but this is kind of that. It's not as like,
this is dirtier.
it's not as like vulgar, I guess, is one way to describe like a traditional cyberpunk, like the punkier aspects of that, where like the grittier, grosser, like societally grittier and grosser parts of this world, that's like much more of a thing in the actual cyberpunk aesthetic.
Got it.
Whereas like this is not as much that way. It's more that way in 2049, where it's more advanced and everything. But
yeah,
I think that's kind of the way that I would describe that in a lot of ways. The very like you lived in analog world was very much created by Star Wars originally. Where
I mean, that
before
was the big difference between Star Trek and Star Wars, right?
Yes,
It was
I mean,
like,
Star Trek is a utopia, and Star Wars is a kind of a dystopia in a lot of ways. And that gritty, grimy look is kind of the big thing. So that's the big influence from Star Wars. But then you get to this, and it's much more like it's taking that into a more realistic world, a more grounded world.
Yes.
Where you see like there's the famous Blade Runner curse, where these brands that were used, that were very popular in the 80s, all went bankrupt.
Yeah, Kodak
and like Atari and stuff like that.
Atari, yes, that was the other one. Yeah.
But then they used the same ones in the in 2049.
I don't know if I caught that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's this idea that like these are the companies that were
this
huge
version
and
of the
succeeded
world.
in this society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very fun. Or I think like the mixing of things like the cops are flying around in their hover cars, but the normal poor people are bicycling around in the streets.
Yes.
Or it still feels like Earth in a lot of ways.
Yeah, like it's not like Star Wars where everyone has their speeder that they're flying around Coruscant. Like there is still like people live on the ground.
Yeah.
And they will drive the places they go in their regular cars.
Yeah, or even
Extremely rich people.
Deckard has a regular car.
Does he?
I don't know. Does it fly in any of the scenes?
It does both.
Does it? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
he's like using it, on the street. Yeah.
Yeah. You wouldn't fly everywhere.
Right.
Think of the gas prices.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest influences that this movie has had on other things is very much the production design and the world of Blade Runner. A lot more than the story, just because the ideas that are explored in this are not things that have not been done before or since. There's a lot of what does it mean to be human in any number of things. Data, the character in Star Trek, that is his entire thing.
Yeah. Huh.
That is the whole point of that character, is as a counterpoint and everything like that.
Yeah.
Like it's not a particularly
what does it mean
unique
to be
idea.
human? A thumbs up while you're sinking down into molten lava.
Exactly,
Yeah.
but that's exactly what I mean. Like it's been done to death, but the way that the first Blade Runner does it doesn't feel particularly unique to me, whereas Blade Runner 2049 feels more interesting in that regard. Like the first movie I think is more interesting for what it created and this world and everything, and the second one is more interesting in the way that it answers that question.
Yeah. I think the following the narrative arc of K in 2049 is a lot more. I think what you're just saying is that's how I feel about it. Like the Deckard character arc doesn't necessarily feel as exploratory of that question as much as it does for K to be exploring that question. Yeah.
Well, it makes me wonder. I really wish that I'd had time to read or listen to the book ahead of this, because I just really wonder how much of that is in the book. Because 2049 is completely fresh and written.
Yeah.
It's not at all taken from at least the story itself is not taken from.
From what I saw, they didn't do too much to change the book.
Yeah.
But I obviously haven't read the book, so.
Yeah, neither have I. Disaster. Apparently there's some big focus on like artificial livestock or something and stuff like that, which then you can
2049.
Yeah, because that's like the whole. I've got the little crawl that they have at the beginning of both of these.
The original company is defunct, but then the new big company is the one that learned how to save agriculture artificially. Yeah,
I love the way that these opening things, like they give you just enough information to understand this world, but not enough that there's not intrigue and mystery and interesting stuff.
Oh yeah.
And they're also just so cool.
Yeah.
Like this is the one from the first movies. Early in the 21st century, the Tyrell Corporation advanced robot evolution into the Nexus phase, a being virtually identical to a human known as a replicant. The Nexus 6 replicants were superior in strength and agility, and at least equal in intelligence to the genetic engineers who created them. The replicants were used as off-world slave labor in the hazardous exploration and colonization of other planets. After a bloody mutiny by a Nexus 6 combat team in an off-world colony, replicants were declared illegal on Earth under penalty of death. Special police squads, Blade Runner units, had orders to shoot to kill upon detection any trespassing replicant. This was not called execution, it was called retirement. That's so cool.
Yeah.
It's like you're instantly setting the scene for the kind of world this is. And then the opening shot of the city with Vangelis' amazing score is just like, it is a masterclass in setting tone and feeling, and it's just like you understand the world immediately.
Yeah.
And the second one does a really good job, does the same thing, where like we know this world because we've seen the first one, but it does an amazing job of explaining what's happened in these last 30 years. With replicants are bioengineered human, designed by Tyrell Corporation for use off-world. Their enhanced strength, for use off-world, their strength made them ideal for slave labor. After a series of violent rebellions, their manufacture became prohibited and Tyrell Corporation went bankrupt. The collapse of ecosystems in the mid-2020s led to the rise of industrialist Neander Wallace, whose mastery of synthetic farming averted famine. Wallace acquired the remains of Tyrell Corp and created a new line of replicants who obey. Many older model replicants, Nexus 8s with open-ended lifespans, survived. They are hunted down and retired. those who hunt them still go by the name Blade Runner. Like, it perfectly updates what happened in between here. And they released 3 short films as well that take place at different times in that timeline that are also really good. They're all on YouTube.
Cool.
You can find them. And you should.
I should.
They're good.
I'd love to.
The first one is about the blackout. The second one is about Wallace and how he came to power and brought replicants back. And then the third one is about Dave Bautista's character, Sapper.
Oh.
And leads directly into the movie. It's about how he got discovered, essentially.
Got it. Huh. Wow.
Yeah, man.
If the first one is a noir film, what do you say the second one is? Sci-fi action?
I don't know that I would... I mean, I think that it is sci-fi action. I think that it still has noir elements. It's still shot very visually in that way, just in a different style, in the way that Roger Deakins does it. It's a Roger Deakins noir. Like, it's still very much that. It's not written dialogue-ish as much that way, but I think that's still really like, it is kind of a detective story.
Yeah.
As much as the first one is. But it's more about the internal experience of the character than it is about the mystery. Whereas the first one, while it is about that, is much less about that, or much less obviously about that, I would think. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think they do feel stylistically pretty different. But also just, I don't know. I don't think, I'm glad they changed. I'm glad they didn't try to do it again. The same as the first one the second time. I think they went their own creative direction with it, which I think is a really cool thing.
Yeah.
That they were able to take what they're good at doing and making a great film, great standalone film. Like, I think, obviously, we were saying earlier that we have friends who have seen the second one, but not the first one. Yeah, you know? So, and I think I have friends who have seen the second one and say it's one of their favorite movies of all time, and I've not seen the first one. So, It's like, what? That's crazy.
It's very good. I really, really like both of these movies.
Yeah. So rewatchable, too. You were talking about the storytelling earlier of, there's a crawl at the beginning, and that kind of sets the world, and it goes from there. And then there's little pieces that you might not even pick up on that, if you don't pick up on, it doesn't ruin the story. But it just adds to the way the world works. It adds to, I just could rewatch these movies multiple times and take away something different every time.
Yeah.
With watching with different people, having discussions afterwards, which I think is always really fun with a movie. So I think that makes a great movie for me, is I could watch it multiple times and pull out different pieces of, different takeaways, if you want to call them that, of the movie for my own life. Yeah.
I agree.
Wow.
I agree.
Well, should we move on to your discussion questions, or did we kind of cover them all?
We kind of covered them a little bit. Like, we talked about, like, what makes us real.
Yeah.
And, like, do replicants possess free will?
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of the same thing. Like, I wrote here, replicants can only act within their programming, but is that really that different from the barriers placed on us based on our socioeconomic situation or our, like, family context and everything like that? We put all kinds of limits on ourselves, and that is the reason that we behave the way we are.
Yeah, when we pick up a new narrative of who we are, that can change. We were saying that earlier with Kay, when he realizes, like, oh, I am the child.
When he believes he is.
Yeah, right. It, like, changes the way he interacts with the world. Yeah, like, what narratives do we need to drop and change and let go of, or stop overanalyzing?
What things do we believe about ourselves that are either not true or just hindering us?
Yeah, and then what wakes us up to that? Like, what life experience, what person in our life? So many things can trigger.
Yeah,
that
witnessing a miracle.
Yeah, right. Yeah, believing in miracles. Yeah, witnessing a miracle. Good. Studying abroad.
Which broad? That's one of the things that the leader of the resistance says, is when she realizes that, she says, like, oh, you imagined it was you? We all wish it was us. That's why we believe.
Yeah,
Like, oh, that's really
that is so much more powerful for rebellion, instead of saying rebellions are built on hope.
Yeah. It's like,
And Leia's alive!
okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I
Anywho.
guess.
Yeah.
I guess they're built on hope.
Yeah.
They're also built on arms and terrorism.
Yeah.
Let's fight.
Yeah. And social contracts being broken.
One of my favorite episodes of Star Wars Rebels, the show that takes place between the prequels and the original trilogy, is it's in the Clone Wars, is when Ahsoka goes to a planet and there's these freedom fighters that are trying really hard to free themselves from this oppressive government or whatever. And they're like, Anakin's like, the Republic can't get involved. And she's like, what if I just taught them a few things? And it's like, oh, she's trying to help them and stuff. But it's very quickly like, she's teaching them to become domestic terrorists.
Yeah.
And like, depending on your perspective here, like, they're trying to get freedom and that's great. But she's also like teaching them how to start a violent revolution.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's like,
isn't that the meme too? Like the Empire did nothing wrong or whatever? Like
a little bit. I don't know. It's all about perspective.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so great. So yeah, so many good. Yeah, changing the narrative is just like that's such a powerful message. Yeah.
It's good, man.
Do you vibe at all with the idea of like it doesn't really matter if we're human or replicant, or like let's just all coexist? I mean, from the other perspective, if we're talking about perspectives, the replicants are slaves who like are pretty sentient, clearly, like are getting emotions in some cases.
Yeah.
Like at least in the first one, by the second one, like definitely. But I mean, within human history, that's how we treated other humans. Where you're not a human. I'm using you as slave labor.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, Wallace says something to that effect. He talks about like all the greatest human advancement is all built on the back of slave labor or of unpaid labor, something like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's not entirely wrong.
Yeah.
Which is not like he's conflating that with this is the way it is and that's just what we have to deal with. But that's really just like a falsehood, like that's a fallacy.
Yeah.
Something being the way it is doesn't make it good or bad.
Yeah.
Like that is, something can be the way it is, but we still have to assess like the morality of it. It's like any new technology is not inherently good or evil. The AI is not good or evil.
Yeah.
But how we use it, or how it is been used, or how it will go on to be used, that is the moral question.
Right.
Its existence, not as much.
Yeah.
We'll probably get into the same questions when we get to Oppenheimer.
Yeah. Yeah. I also feel the same way about like animal rights. Like definitely not a human, but like how am I treating the thing?
Sure.
Like how am I treating this insert lab animal or insert whatever? Like it's not human, but do I treat it with dignity and respect? Or like with this thing, we're using the replicants as slaves or pleasure devices,
Pleasure models.
or pleasure model, or whatever. Like woof. Yeah, I don't know. It's just a lot of levels to it.
Well, we see a replicant be born in 2049, and it is like a calf being born.
Yes, I think that felt very I love the way they did that. Yeah, like just felt like such an animal flopping to the ground. Yeah,
It's interesting. I mean, I certainly like the things that I'm saying here about like what makes us real, and especially if we are talking about the way that replicants are in this world. If we gotten to the point where they are so indistinguishable from people, they live and die and bleed and can be hurt and can be killed and drowned. Like they are organic beings. They're not robots. Robots are a completely different thing from androids.
Yeah.
Like they're basically another person. It's a completely separate species, which not being human doesn't mean that you're not sentient and doesn't mean that you're not intelligent and shouldn't be treated as an equal of some sort, especially in this case where they are created to basically be, they're called replicants. They're to be replicating humans and human behavior. That's what an android is. It's replicating human behavior.
Right.
Like, but not with pre-programmed things, with artificial intelligence, which is not just code. Like that is an actual brain of some sort.
Yeah.
Which is not the way the artificial intelligence that we have now is not that. It doesn't really think for itself.
Yeah.
This is different. This is a different case. It really does.
And then you're tacking on real people's memories into that.
Yes, which, if they are artificial memories, does it matter?
Oh yeah, so like right now, like AI art or AI whatever, like that art does not exist in real life. That's like a kind of an original. Could you make AI memories that are like kind of real but kind of not? Like all the faces are fuzzy and they're not real memories and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the art thing is, and I don't want to get super deep into that, but the art thing is different because it is like creating stuff based off of and scraped off of other. It can't truly create something original.
Right.
Because it is doing all of this other stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas like these memories that are being created partially are taken from sometimes a
real
piece of truth and stuff
right,
like that.
Right.
Like the best lie has an evident, a modicum of truth in it and everything like that. But these are like, what is the question that I wrote here about that? The memories, how do memories influence the character's perceptions of self and their understanding of the world around them? She talks about how people think memory is about detail that we recall with our feelings.
Yeah.
Like memory is so subjective.
Yeah.
We could describe the same event to each other and we would have completely different recollections of that.
Yes.
Me and Laura have done that. We've gone through the entirety of like how we met and the like progression of our relationship. And we would get in arguments of like, that's not how that happened. But like, I know in my head, that's what I experienced. And she knows in her head, that's what she experienced.
Yeah.
And somewhere in between there is what actually happened. But our experiences and our memories are not, like, it is the worst, eyewitness report is the worst source of information because our memories are not reliable.
Yeah.
So if that is the case in real life already, does it matter?
How different is it? Yes.
But it is interesting how much emphasis they do put on that and how important that is to them. And the physical objects, the photos. Deckard has about 1 million photos, and possibly old photos.
Yeah, black and white.
Yes.
Yeah. Is he trying to create some sense that he's human? He's connected to these old memories?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's... If how about this? You and I are friends in this world, in the Blade Runner world.
Okay.
I am happily in a relationship with an AI computer module.
Yes.
Do you call me out on it? Do you tell me to go find a real person?
See, that one is... That's interesting because like we haven't really gotten into the different tiers of all of that because how is a Joy the same as a replicant?
Yeah.
I don't think it's quite on the same level, you know?
Yeah. A
Because
replicant still feels like it is unique to, like, the humanhood or the personhood of a replicant feels different than like a packaged program that you can buy.
Yes.
That everybody has.
Like she is still, she has free will and she makes choices, like when she chooses to hire Mackenzie Davis to come and like be a physical body for her.
Yeah.
But those are all still within the programming of her wanting to please Kay and wanting to be... But then again, like, does it matter that this is her programming?
Yeah.
Or is that just like, that's real to him? You know, is when love stomps on the thing and effectively kills her, is that any different than Rachel dying to Deckard? I don't know.
Yeah.
Not really. Like to Kay, to Joe.
To his reality.
Not really. It's basically the same. Like the person that he loved, the thing, I don't know, person, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
is effectively dead.
Yes.
In literal or metaphorical terms.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, man. And
does
like,
that give you more or less empathy for people like in your world? Or like does that change the way you interact with the world? Like I think all good art Or how does it impact the way you live in the world? How about that?
I think it would have to a certain degree. Like, we know the rules of the world that we live in, and it's not this one.
Yeah.
But like, there's a difference between. We could try to make some kind of analog to an AI in modern times and stuff, but it's not the same. Like, that would still be like, or like a parasocial relationship with like a streamer or something, or like, because like that to me is unhealthy.
Yeah.
Where people will get too attached to a streamer or like an OnlyFans creator or something. Like, that is a somewhat parasitic relationship.
Yeah.
Like, this is not going both ways.
Right.
Where something like this kind of is. Like, there's a different kind of thing there. But to bring it to the real world, I always want to engage with someone in good faith and to not invalidate what they are experiencing. Like, I think that there is certainly a line where I would have to say, like, hey, I don't think that what you're doing is healthy. I don't think what you're doing is right or good for you, or maybe in general. I don't know. But it's never going to be the first thing that I do. Like, if someone tells me this is what's going on and this is how I feel about this, and I'm not going to invalidate that. Like, I want to hear what you have to say, and maybe you're right about that thing. I don't know. But I'm not going to endorse it or deny it instantly. I want to have empathy primarily before making any kind of judgment.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like, if I'm identifying with what you're saying, and now I'm thinking some of like empathy, or realizing we're all humans, or realizing that like human nature is confusing and weird, and like like what it means to be human is hard to really define, even though maybe people try to define it a lot, and maybe it's not worth trying to define. Maybe it's maybe it's just saying like, we're all in this together, and we're all trying to figure it out. And like, also like, I'm an individual, and I'm like kind of, in some sense, like looking out for myself in like a non-selfish way. Yeah. Like, what I do know is that reality to me is reality. Like, and I don't really know what your reality is in a lot of ways. Like, I don't know what you're experiencing. The only thing I can say definitively is this is how I'm experiencing the world, and at the same time, that means that I need to not put my reality on your reality in some ways, or like to not say my way is the best way, because like
because it might not be.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, I think that the basic assumption, and we're about to need to press the button, but the basic assumption of something like this, we can ask the question of like, are replicants real? Are they human? The basic assumption is that they are. The basic assumption in anything like this is that they are effectively the same. So why are we treating these people differently? Why are they other?
Right.
And so the ultimate question is really like, to look on ourselves and our own history and our own past. What are the reasons that we do treat people as other and as different? So like, the question is, you're a replicant and I'm a guy, whatever, or we don't know. You might be a replicant or you might not be. If I knew that you were a replicant, would I treat you differently, and what is the reason for that? Like, is there a good reason for that? Or is that just like my own personal bias? Because this is a thing that's different about you than from me.
Are different.
But does that
you are other.
Does that make you genuinely different in any way that actually matters?
Yes. Yeah. And
I feel like we had a weirdly similar conversation last week.
Did we?
Yes.
Huh. We've definitely had, this is the conversation that a lot of sci-fi boils down to. Fear of the other, and then the real world implication may be like, is the other an immigrant? Is it a new neighbor? Is it a different religion? Is it, whatever it is that like, because I know you are other, I now treat you differently. Whereas like, when the line blurs between other and not other, we don't have to reorganize the boundaries. We can just say like, we're one and it's fine. Or like, let's
Yeah.
live in peace here. Yeah.
We can still get into those issues, but at the core of it, does that really matter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, no. But it's just that, like, when this situation very clearly makes the line super thin, it's way more challenging to most viewers than Catholic Protestants, or, whatever the more clear line may be. Yeah. Wow.
Blade Runner.
Blade Runner. Watch your blades.
Hardly know her. Let me press the button.
Okay.
Okay, we're back.
All dogs go to heaven, K goes to heaven. That's what I'm saying.
Maybe.
Off camera, everybody, Marshall and I just had a fight about theology.
No, we didn't.
No, we didn't at all, but it's
No, we
imagine
didn't.
that we did.
Oh, man, we'll do that another time. That's what we think about Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049. Ben,
Yep.
yes or no?
Yes! To both. Gosh, do it. Friggin' do it. I put it off way too long. Go do it. Watch it. Put it
I
on the
agree.
calendar. Watch it on a weekend. Watch it by yourself if you don't have it. You don't have to get people to watch it, but just sit back and enjoy. Do it. I put it off. You don't need to either. What? Marshall, yes or no?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Now do we go to if this and that?
Yes, let's do if this, then that. Ben, do you have any if this, then that?
If this then that. If you don't want Blade Runner, but you want something that's kind of like Blade Runner and is much more overt and heavy-handed with the messaging of what it means to be human or robots or AI, is iRobot. There's a detective, Will Smith. He's tracking down the freaking robot that's gone rogue and has become sentient. And then he has this realization of like, oh my gosh, what's it mean to be a human or robot?
Yes.
And it's just like, it's much more heavy-handed than this movie, I think.
Yeah, you could
But it's
describe
like
it as a worse version of Blade Runner.
You think I can say worse? I think it's fun.
I would say, I mean, it's fun, but it's
for what
definitely
it
a worse
is.
version of Blade Runner.
Okay, it's worse. I just don't want to be snooty about it. I think it's a fun
snooty.
movie. When I see
I don't think it's
iRobot,
snooty to
I'm
say
like,
that a
LOL,
movie that
this
is
funny.
definitively like a 7 out of 10 is a worse version of anything else.
Yeah, it's a worse version than this.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't really think about that when I was looking at my if this, then that, but that makes sense. I didn't consider that. That was a great, dude, I didn't even think about iRobot.
Yeah. As well as iRobot,
Yeah.
I think a lot of movies that deal with any sort of game theory feel pretty similar to questioning what matters in life.
What does that mean?
Game theory meaning like, am I in a video
simulation.
game? Not game theory. Simulation theory.
Okay,
Excuse me.
I have
said
the
game
Matrix
theory,
on
which
here.
is a totally different theory. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Simulation theory.
But that's just a theory.
Yeah. What's that from?
A game theory. That's
What
from
is-
the YouTube Game Theories. Game Theory.
Is that a
Matt
YouTube?
Pat.
Oh.
I never really watched them,
Okay.
but it's a meme.
That's fun. I like a good meme.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, no. It's good.
Matrix.
I said the wrong thing. I meant simulation theory. Thank you for clearing that up. The Matrix would be a good one for questioning, like, wake up. Like, was it life the whole time? Was it not? If you wouldn't have woken up and just kept living your life.
I know that this steak is all ones and zeros.
Yeah.
But my brain is telling me that it's delicious.
Yeah.
And like the whole thing that Cypher says. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it feels very similar to the what's human, what's not kind of thing. What's real, what's not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Another one
is
like
my
that would be
reality.
Dark City,
Okay.
which I would.
haven't seen that.
Oh, it's like almost a really great movie, and you have to make sure that you watch the director's cut because, like this, the original version of it has the whole like opening monologue and everything that just explains the entire mystery.
Nice.
It's like, well, that ruins it.
Got it.
But if you watch the director's cut, it doesn't have that, and it's really fascinating to slowly unravel what's
I feel
happening.
like you've told me about this before.
I've talked about it a couple episodes ago, I think.
Yes, because you were talking about how it's just like not fun when they tell you the whole thing right away.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's really, I like it a lot though. It's a big cult classic.
A much more lighthearted version than both of those that has to do with simulation theory.
Free Guy.
Free Guy.
Yeah.
Which honestly, I think there's some pretty fun simulation theory moments in that,
There
where
is.
it turns into like, man, even if it's all simulation, I know that I'm here with my best friend,
Yeah.
and that's all that matters. It's like, oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, my best
Even if
friend.
I'm living in simulation right now, Marshall, I'm really glad that this is real to me.
Even if I'm in a simulation, I'm fine with this.
I will simulate you
I'm
for free.
Let's do it. That's gonna be our live show.
Whoa! Welcome to the theater, to the Orpheum Theater, live from Omaha. It's
We're gonna simulate each other.
Yeah, on stage.
What? Another movie that is not simulation theory, but kind of the same tone would be Children of Men.
Have
you seen that one?
Nope.
Children of Men is a world that is somewhat in the future. It might not be anymore. I don't know when it takes place. But it's a world where all women, for some reason, have become infertile. Whoa. So there's not been a new child born in like a long time. And the most famous person in the world is like the youngest person.
Wow. Because they're like the last shot.
Yeah. They're like...
So everyone's trying to knock them up? Ew.
No, like everyone's infertile. Everyone. And we don't know why. But he's just like, what a novelty. This is a young person.
Oh, interesting. Like, how did that happen?
Yes. Well, how did that happen is they were born before everyone went infertile.
Oh.
It's just the fact that they are a young person.
But there's one... Oh, you just mean in general young people, not a singular young person.
The youngest person in the world.
You made it sound like there's one single young person, everyone else is old.
There is.
Oh.
There is one person. If everyone stopped, if we all stopped having babies right now, there would be one person who is the youngest person in the world.
And then somebody that's like a little older than them, like maybe by a minute or two.
But in the world where the point is, in this world, that is this person who's really famous because they're the youngest person in the world.
Okay.
Get over it. It doesn't. That's not what the story's about.
Well, why are you telling me about it then?
It was just supposed to be incidental. It was just supposed to be a little...
You made me think that this is the whole plot of the movie.
Because
there's some protagonist who's the youngest person in the world, and they're trying to get knocked up.
No.
Okay.
It's not that. It's much more interesting than that.
That sounds pretty interesting. I feel like that's the new Bridgerton. I'm pitching this to Netflix.
That's the new Bridgerton? Does it take place in the 1800s?
How did you not talk about Netflix subscriber numbers in Tight News?
Are they going down?
No, way up. It's crazy. They did the password lockdown, and everyone's like, Netflix is screwed. And then like, they had their fastest growth since COVID.
I don't care about Netflix.
They gambled on it, and it was right. I think it's cool. I'm sorry, you were telling me about a girl or a guy who's young and is in the pursuit
I wasn't
of love, and this is Love Island.
I wasn't telling you about that.
Okay.
Children of Men is about, that's the world.
Okay.
And the story is that miraculously this woman has had a baby.
Oh, so it is about the youngest person in the world.
It is about the youngest person, but not that one.
Oh, got
Yes, not the famous one.
The new young one.
So the thing is, like, the same way, like, if people find out that replicants can have babies, it's gonna change everything and it's gonna explode the world. That's this. We're trying to get this child to a safe place in this extremely dangerous world.
Wow.
And it's like really, really good. It's directed by Alejandro Iñárritu, I think.
Okay.
It's very good. Watch it.
How did they get pregnant? Was it essential oils?
You don't know. They had sexual intercourse.
Well,
presumably.
Unless it was immaculate conception.
I don't think that it was immaculate.
The intercourse was immaculate.
Immaculate. That's very good.
Oh, God. Wow, if I could ever describe it like that, that would be...
You can.
I could.
And you should.
I don't know if I've been there yet.
Kate, that was immaculate.
High five.
High five. Very nice.
I like.
The other one I would suggest, just because, like, if you like the vibe of this movie, you should watch Dune. Denis Villeneuve has a very specific feeling to his movies, so you could really watch any of his movies and kind of get that same feel. Prisoners, Enemy. Enemy is more art housey and weird, so I wouldn't suggest it to everyone.
So I should.
You haven't seen Prisoners? Oh, Prisoners is really good.
Okay.
The most underrated movie of the last decade, maybe.
Add it to my.
But yeah, that's kind of the if this then that. Do we want to really fast go through like this stuff, or how much do we care?
Let's pause and do an internet special of Welcome to Instagram. This is Marshall talking about his new Criterion Collection haul.
Okay. Well, let's just finish the episode.
Check out my try-on haul, TikTok. I ordered all these things from Amazon. They were all built in a sweatshop in Thailand, and I got them for so cheap. Let's see which one makes me look the sluttiest. Sorry.
You should do that.
You think I should do a try-on haul for the Cinema Lab?
To see which one makes you look the sluttiest.
Which one what?
I don't know. It's up to you. Or it's up to the audience to decide. But here's the real question, Ben. Where can people find the show?
You can use the internet, which doesn't exist in the Blade Runner world, apparently. Even though it's 2019. Haha! Didn't see that one coming.
There's probably a reason for that. I don't know. Well, I guess the internet didn't exist when they made the movie.
Correct.
Interesting.
Yep. You could use the internet. You could find us on Instagram. You can find us on wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us on not on YouTube yet, but maybe one day you can join the Discord.
Meaning to sit down and upload every single episode of the show to the YouTube channel.
What?
And it's just such a large endeavor, and we should
pay someone. We should hire someone. That's how we grow. We have to spend money, but we have to hire someone.
You can hire me, Ben. Start paying me to do it.
All right.
Sweet. Give me some of your super big teacher
sweet
salary.
Teacher money.
Yeah. But yeah, you can find us on Instagram.
OnlyFans.
Nope.
Which is where our fans go. Only our fans.
The only ones of our fans go there.
If you want to see Marshall rank his new Criterion Collection haul, subscribe on OnlyFans.
Well, I can't rank them. I'm probably gonna. So, if you Cinema Lounge Pod on Instagram, Facebook. We have a Discord. All of this is linked in the description. You can check it out. You can join in the conversation. We post in those places. I post every Saturday what the next movie or movies are going to be, what the next topic is going to be.
Yep.
I hop on there at least every Saturday to answer questions and stuff like that, as well as on Wednesdays to post a preview of the episode that came out that day. We're also on TikTok, Cinema Lounge Pod on TikTok, so you can watch our TikToks there. They're so funny. They're such funny TikToks.
So funny.
Ben, can I tell you something?
Yeah.
I posted a TikTok that was us talking about the Craven trailer.
Yep.
About 800 something views.
What?
Yes.
Are we famous?
No, but you want to know the other thing? I posted the TikTok of your realization that Kate was having a baby,
Yeah.
as well as you talking about the baby,
Yeah.
and like 200 max.
That makes sense.
Yeah, people love Craven more than they love Noah.
That makes so much sense, and I'm really happy about
and
that.
you too. You told me right before the show, you love Craven more than you love Noah.
I didn't say that, but if my daughter turned into a lion and ate someone, that would be awesome. Craven.
Thanks everyone for listening to the show. This is the official podcast of The Great Scub-Doo, the YouTube channel that we may touch in the future if I can find the time and will to put all this on there. But yeah, thanks everyone for listening. Find all the stuff in the description. Check out the show. Message the show. Ask us questions. Like I want to do another Q&A maybe at some point.
Oh my
We're gonna
gosh.
have to bank like 2 or 3 episodes at some point here before I go to Columbia.
Great. Oh yeah.
And you also go to Columbia.
Yeah. We could do remote pods too if you ever want to.
Well, when I'm there, we definitely
that
will.
makes sense.
But
That's
for
the only
the
way
week
to do
leading
that.
up to the wedding
yeah.
and after the wedding,
Yeah.
I would like to have a few episodes just set. You know.
Yeah.
Probably like the week of the wedding, the week after the wedding, and the week after the week after. So that way we have time to do a remote recording, because then I'm going to be away and then coming back and doing stuff that week afterwards, and I won't have time to record an episode for the next week. And so we got to do 3 special extra episodes that we can do at some point. But yeah, thanks everyone for listening. It's the official podcast of the show. We love the show. Love you, Eric. We need to toast. We forgot to toast like the last freaking
Mountain Dew.
so many
Mountain
episodes.
Dew, baby.
I've got water.
Okay, I'm healthy. I'm Marshall. Look at me.
I'm trying.
This didn't fizz at all when I opened it. That's concerning. Mountain Dew looks so gross when it's not fizzy. Like it's just. I guess it is a little fizzy.
Yeah, it looks
I mean,
gross
just
because
like look
it's
at that
gross.
color. It just looks like it shouldn't be ingested by humans. It looks like it should go in a car.
Lemon lime at least is like clear.
Yeah.
You're gonna put the cap on
Oh
that
God.
right now.
Okay, a toasty toast. You want to kick her off?
You start.
Okay. Here's to replicants replicating. Here's to immaculates replication.
Immaculate replication.
Here is to Harrison Ford, Izzy Indiana Han Solo. What's his name in this movie?
Rick Deckard.
Deckard. Han Deckard Jones and his stunning performance. And here is to Ryan Gosling, Izzy Is he an AI bot? Is he a Barbie? He's all of them. Cheers. Oh, wait, your turn, sorry.
Yeah. Here's to Ryan Gosling. Here's to that one scene where they fight with Elvis in the background and Harrison Ford accidentally punched him in real life. And they caught it on camera and his face is hilarious. And I'm gonna put it up right there. And here's to...
Drink it early. Sorry. Dude.
Here's to the maggots.
Oh, yeah.
To
At the beginning of the movie?
The real maggots, the fake owls, and humans of whatever kind.
Amen. Peace be with you.
Think it and sink it. Thanks everyone for listening. That's been the show. Next week, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Is it good? Does it suck? I know, because I saw it already.
You what?
I saw it late at night. And I'll tell you one thing, it's long. Maybe I thought it was really good, maybe I thought it was really bad, but what I know for sure, it's about a half hour too long.
Wow.
But go and see it for yourself, and then we're gonna talk about it next week. And yeah. Bye guys.
Bye!
I've been Marshall.
I've been Ben. It's Mountain Dew, baby.